Good evening, everyone. It's 6:30, so we're going to go on and get started. Thank you for attending. We're really excited that there's 37 people online right now. I know that number will go up. The last time we tried to do one of these in person, we had 0. So we're really excited about now it's 40. So thank you. Thank you for taking time out of your evening and joining us. So we hope to have a really informational evening for you and shouldn't last more than 40 minutes or so, hopefully, depending on how many questions. But anyway, as always, when we do anything, we want to start with prayer. So we're going to begin tonight with prayer as well. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Loving God, we ask for your blessings over all of the teachers and staff who work here. We ask for your blessings over all of the children who study here. We pray our school would be a place of great discovery, adventure, and creativity. May it be a place where we love to learn and where we learn to love, a place where everyone is respected and all are deeply valued. We ask all of this through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Okay, so here's our agenda for the evening. And, we thought about different ways of having this, but we think the most efficient way is to go on with the presentation where everyone is muted. But if you have questions as we are presenting, please feel free to put them in the chat. And we're monitoring the chat, and we're going to stop after each section and answer questions. And then if there's too many questions or we just can't get to everything, we will get an FAQ out to you after this. We are also going to share this presentation. So we will send this home to you as well. So you'll have it as well. Okay, so we're going to start with budget and tuition. Dr. Amy, there we go. So this is a pie chart of our revenue. And basically, this is what it costs to, this is the income we need to take in to run the school. So as you can see on here, 80% of the budget is covered by tuition. And that's as it should be. That's appropriate, and that's where we should be. The other 20% is a variety of revenue, including, if you'll see there, we pull money from our investment accounts, money from fees, and donations. But what I really want to point out when it comes to revenue is the next slide, Dr. Amy, which is Blessed Are the Children in PTO. So we know 80% of our revenue comes from tuition. So 10% of our revenue, which is half of the remaining amount, comes from what we call BATC, which is Blessed Are the Children, and from PTO. And that's a huge amount of our budget. As you look there and look at those two categories, that equals 10%. So these funds, it's really important that we note that these funds are not for special projects. I know that our PTO presidents have shared with me they're presidents too. But they have shared with me sometimes, like after Jogathon, people say, well, what are we going to do with this money? And so it's really important that you understand that this money goes straight into the operating budget, straight into the budget. It is part of what it takes to run the school year to year. And so next slide. There we go. BATC. I really want to talk about that in particular. It stands for Blessed Are the Children. It's an annual giving campaign that has been in place for over 30 years. And both of these go to the operating budget. As I just said, they total $595,000. That's crazy. $595,000 between Blessed Are the Children and PTO for our annual operating budget. And they help to fill, and I'll talk about this a little bit more later, but there's a $1,500 tuition gap per student. And those are the two fundraising mechanisms that help to fill that gap. Okay, next slide. So now we're going to talk about expenses. So as you can see, if you look at the combination of salaries and benefits combined, those equal about 80%. And that's as it should be. Tuition should really cover salaries and benefits for all the staff who work here. And then the additional costs are covered by everything else. And so in this case, the vast majority of the additional costs are what we call operational and educational. And I'm going to go over both of those with you. But before I do that, I'd like you to look, Dr. Amy, if you have your cursor where it says investment contribution, $15,000 there. That's a really important line I want people to pay attention to, because we have been saving for years. We have taken and saved money out of our operating budget. And it is that money that helped us ride COVID, that helped us for 2 years when we had a budget that wasn't balanced. And as you'll see when Mr. Innegas talks a little bit later, he's going to share with you some of the ways we use that money. At one point, we were putting about $50,000 a year into our investment accounts. For the last 2 years, we've put zero. So this budget, and by the way, I didn't say this is for next year. This is the budget for next year. We are going to start contributing to our investment accounts again. And so that is the $15,000 that you see there. Okay, next slide. So the other two large pieces of the pie that you saw there were operational and educational. So operational is things like this. Maintenance and utilities are the biggest chunk of operational. You can see building repairs and maintenance is $180,000. That's everything from keeping all our HVAC systems running, keeping the elevator running, the plumbing, the electrical, all that kind of stuff. That's operational. And then further down, you'll see utilities, and utilities are obvious. Gas and power and trash are the three main utilities for us. You'll see office, that's everything from making copies, mailing report cards. It is printing things, our databases that run the report card system, the portals, the attendance, all that. Those systems cost thousands of dollars a year. And so this is all operational. Okay, next slide. And then educational. And we kind of put educational in kind of two categories, student activities and curriculum. And these are all of the items that you will find in educational. And this is the biggest cost of running the school after salaries and benefits. And it's everything from playground. You may have seen the tape in the play yard where one of the slides has emergency tape around it right now. We have to replace that slide at thousands of dollars. Falcon Fun Thursdays, we have to pay the staff for that and the cost of supplies. Extracurriculars, drama, speech and debate. All those come not only with cost of supplies, but human costs, paying the people to run those. And PE, athletic programs, computers, all the students have computers, all that's covered under student activities. And I'm going to say this again, I believe in the next slide, but I'm going to say it here as well. We don't charge anything extra for any of this. You can go to the next slide, Dr. Amy. I kind of had fun with this slide. Your child can do drama and we don't charge a fee for that. Your child can play football. We don't charge them for the jersey. We don't charge any fees for football. Every child has a Chromebook to use. We don't charge you for that. They can do speech and debate, no charge. We give them a yearbook at the end of the year. We don't charge you for that. And on and on and on. Field trips and graduation, we don't charge for that. Anything they do. almost anything they do. There are a few things that we do charge. The newest ones, of course, Falcon Fun Thursday, that's been phenomenally successful. We don't charge for that. And we just started a new program this year for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders called the World Scholar Cup. And so we don't charge for any of the fees for that or anything like that. They do have to pay $50 to enter the tournament, but the staffing and everything else, we are not charging for that. So that all comes under that category of student activities or educational, sorry. Okay, next slide. So here we are, and this is your tuition for next year. The budget, all the numbers I just showed you are for next year. So we are planning a 6.5% tuition increase for next year, which puts Plan A tuition at $9,164. The actual cost per student next year is $10,735. So that's about, it's actually almost $1,600 gap, but we just say $1,500 gap. If I could go back to that slide 5 or 6 slides ago, that's where the Blessed Are the Children and the PTO fundraising is so, so important to help fill that gap. You don't really need to go back there, Dr. Amy. I'm just saying if I could. That's where that money goes. It helps to fill that gap. And that is a gap per student, not per family. Okay, next slide. There we go. So just to go over the last few points, it's a 6.5% tuition increase. The sibling discount is going to be 95% for the second child. So all second kids get a 5% discount. And then if there's a third or fourth child, they're going to have a 10% discount. So that's number 2. Number 3, very, 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 very important. We are committed to our families. If this tuition increase of 6.5% is really just going to be a terrible hardship, please apply for tuition assistance. Please apply for tuition assistance. We will help you. We have a very robust tuition assistance program, and we will help any family that needs it. So please reach out, let us know. We are here to help you. We don't want to lose anyone because of inability to pay tuition. And then, of course, just reiterating what I said before, the tuition gap, that $1,571 is filled through the Blessed Are the Children campaign and PTO fundraising. Okay. So, Mr. Inigus, that's it for my presentation right there. Do we have questions?
You know, Mrs. Ramirez, you explained everything so clearly. The community doesn't have any questions at this point.
Is the chat open? Okay. Okay.
I was going to try to make up a question just so you had something to answer, but you explained it all. So thank you.
Okay. And if more questions come up, you know, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll go back to it. If you were just so intrigued in listening to me, you forgot to ask your question.
Mrs. Ramirez.
Yes.
We did get a very good astute question. How was the 6.5% increase arrived at?
It's kind of backed out is essentially what we do. We look at salaries, we look at benefits, we look at cost. We look at how everything's been running this year and where we've been over budget. And all of that factors into figuring out what we're going to need for next year. And then we run the numbers to see where we can keep the tuition increase as low as possible, but still meet the needs of what we're going to do for next year. So it's sort of a backed out number, looking at everything that we're going to need and then backing into that number.
Great. Thank you, Mrs. Ramirez. Is the sibling discount the same or is that a changed number?
It is changed for the second child. It used to be 90% and now it's 95%. Or another way of looking at it, it used to be 10% and now it's 5%. For the third and fourth child, it is the same. That is not changed.
Another really good question, Jennifer, question/comment is we have a parent who has mentioned that they are hoping the teachers are getting an increase in salary.
Yes, and that is actually what drives the biggest number. As you saw from, if you take salaries and benefits combined, that's 80% of the budget. And so, yes, the teachers are getting raises. And that's the first thing I do when I start working on the budget, is figuring out what those raises are going to be.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jennifer. It looks like that's the questions for your section.
Okay, so now Dr. Amy's going to take over and talk about curriculum. Dr. Amy.
All right, thank you for that introduction, Jennifer, and thank you all to all of our parents and supporters who are here with us tonight. I'm going to touch base briefly about our curriculum and how all of these wonderful things all work together: parent partnerships, teachers, the funding, everything goes towards these beautiful faces that you see here on these next two slides are our students. At the heart of everything that we do, we infuse our faith, we infuse those values into the curriculum, and that is what distinguishes us as St. Philip the Apostle School. We have a well-rounded curriculum where our students love coming to school. They enjoy being together, growing together, as you see here in this picture, from TK now all the way up through 8th grade. We support our students in all aspects of their development, from their faith formation to their academics. We give them what they need in terms of reading, writing, math, spelling, and then some. Our students are wonderful in their opportunities to take part in science, in the arts, in performance, in this. Over the last few years, we've added some STEM activities and opportunities for coding for students, for 3D printing. Just the number of resources that our students get to participate in is really robust. As you've seen in terms of our budget, with a return of field trips this year, our students have been able to go to places like the Disney Concert Music Hall, the Leo Cabrillo Aquarium, museums like the Peterson Automotive Center, the Gene Autry, the Natural History Museum, the Museum of Tolerance, and also benefited from some on-campus field trips and assemblies. Our 5th graders will be having a George Washington historical figure actor come on campus. Our TK Kindergarten First had some hands-on science, and we've even had a dairy cow here and there. We are always striving to improve our curriculum, to continue to grow in what we offer our students, and to be reflective and intentional in our practices. We've added the Yosemite as part of our programming for now junior high students in 6th grade, and we continue to strive to improve. Our emphasis is and continues to be on teaching and learning with regard to whole group instruction, with regard to small group differentiation. We are very blessed that we get to have resource teachers work with our students in small groups. Our classroom teachers also have the benefit of TAs in TK through 5th grade, and our junior high students have a wonderful resource teacher that can help really just continue to flesh out all of our students at every single level, as you see here in some of these pictures. We are really intentional about using data-driven instruction to not only recognize the different levels that our students are at, but also in terms of aligning our curriculum. I don't have pictures here, but our teachers meet in professional learning communities and grade level bands. They also meet in content area PLCs, and we discuss data, we identify students, we really get to know and our students where they are as learners. And that teaching and learning process doesn't just end at the students, it also continues to our teachers and their ability to continue to improve their instructional practices. And that is very intentional in who we are and what we do here at school. Our supports for students continue to increase. We learn more. We continue to develop that aspect of our program for students at across all grade levels. Next year, we're really excited that we continue to in our kinder through second grade use our sounds to spelling phonics program. We're excited that we continue to grow in our Reveal Math program, and just really strive for that academic excellence that distinguishes our school. And I will now pass the baton to Mr. Iniguez, who will fill you in on some wonderful things we're doing in facilities.
Before we do pass along to me, Dr. Amy, we have a couple of questions for you. One of the questions is, how do you challenge students who are excelling in classes?
Thank you for that question. So that is where our classroom teachers come into play, and also our resource teachers. We really believe that differentiation can happen within a single assignment within the classroom. So our students who we recognize are performing at above benchmark levels in terms of their STAR or in terms of classroom assessments, I do meet with those teachers, and we use the resources available within our curriculum, within our textbook programs to continue. And, you know, it might be that that student needs to practice some more independent research skills, or it may be that that student has finished their paragraph, but now we're challenging them to go further and create a more nuanced argument in their paper. So that differentiation, that challenge happens within the classroom. And when teachers get stumped, because we do have some really brilliant students, they come to me and we continue to support that student with some of the online curriculum that we do have for them.
Great, thank you, Dr. Amy. Dr. Amy, we have another question regarding, are we looking to, or to add to it, how do we incorporate socio-emotional learning programs into our school curriculum?
Sure. So we really believe strongly in the social emotional wellness and development of our students. It is really nice that we get to infuse that into our religion classes. We have adopted the Choose Love program, which our students, you might recognize them taking some brave breaths. And that is part of the Choose Love program. We also continue to explore other options and availabilities based on grade level, but it is something that's really important to us in developing that whole child, is making sure students learn to recognize their emotions, how their actions impact others, and to really become reflective in kind of how they're doing and how they're feeling.
And I think, Dr. Amy, to wrap up with the questions, because we do have, can we talk about our middle school math curriculum, and can we discuss how our kids perform on assessments in math in particular, and how are our kids doing in high school when they go to the math programs?
Sure. Our students are performing at and above those benchmarks with regard to our STAR scores. We know that they're doing really well once they get to high school. If we do identify students who are not meeting those needs, then we support them in any way that we can. We very intentionally have discussions with students about their performance. We're saying, okay, it looks like based on your STAR that maybe you're not making that growth. That tells us as a school that there's more that we can be doing to support you in this, you know, in this venture. We recognize that our students will, you know, sometimes with STAR scores go up, go down. It is a computer adaptive test, and so it is a challenge to maybe score, you know, consistently every single time, but we make that part of the process. And the reality is our students are going to take standardized test scores. We do find that when students come back to St. Philip, they do send our math teachers, they do send our teachers emails and say, you know, I didn't realize it at the time that I was getting what I needed to be prepared for high school. And it's been, you know, our goal with our students taking algebra in 8th grade is that we have something for everyone. We have had some students who even go beyond in their studies once they do get to high school. So our students are successful when they move on from here.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Dr. Amy. We appreciate you addressing those questions. All right, everybody, it is my turn. I want to apologize. I was going to include some pictures of our air conditioning units up on the roof, but since it was raining today, I wasn't able to get up there. I'm talking to you about facilities, and as you heard from Mrs. Ramirez's presentation, facilities is a large portion of our budget, and it's an important part of our budget because our children attend school in a school. They attend school here in this building. And it really matters to us that the building we give your children is safe, that it's attractive, that it's well maintained, and that it's a place that they can be proud of and that we can be proud of as well. So we put a lot of time into facilities and making sure that our school is something that our community looks at and says, wow, we have the best school in the city. And we're really proud of our school. So some of the ways we do that. The first thing, in case you may not know, we have a facilities committee, and that facilities committee is a subcommittee of the school board. It came out of our last round of strategic planning, and it's a group of parents who are professionals in the construction industry, in HVAC industry, who have um, general contracting experience. And this group of parents meets every month, and they help guide us in terms of how do we maintain the buildings, how do we ensure that the buildings are getting proper care, or what are the projects that we need to be looking at, what are the long range plans that we have to account for. And this group meets every month, and we couldn't do this without them, so we really thank them. And if any of you are here on the meet tonight, thank you very much for that. And if any of you are interested in being part of the facilities committee, please let me know. So what are some of the things that we do in terms of facilities? Well, for example, we do short-term projects, and some of those short-term projects are to address direct needs that are revealed during the course of the year. So one of the things, as I think, we're not the only ones to notice, there's been a lot of rain this year, and the amount of rain has helped us see that this roof on the old building is definitely in need of a replacement. So one of the projects that the facilities committee has taken on is the replacement of the roof on the older portion of the building. And that's actually going to be completed over the course of our spring break, so that some of those leaks and other things that have been causing disruption and a little bit of damage are going to be shored up. So that's the example of one of the short-term projects. We are committed to long range planning. So one of the examples of long range planning is the facilities committee will be taking a walk through the building and looking at what are the upcoming things that as a school we need to be concerned about. What are the upcoming things that we need to start planning for? So for example, again, those the air conditioning units on the older side of the building, those are coming up to their end of life cycle. So that's something that we've been talking about for a little while now. What's the best way to replace them? What's the best process to get them replaced? So we don't just wait for things to happen. We are actively always looking to see what are our upcoming needs. And there's definitely, as buildings age, you do come up with things that are going to need to be done. The interiors, we've got a plan for it, getting them painted at one point. There's a lot of different things that facilities will look at. Now, Jennifer mentioned earlier about putting money aside, and that's a really important factor because we do maintain reserve accounts. And what that means is that when something happens, so for example, we do need to get a roof replaced, we do not have to do bake sales to raise the money. We don't have to do a quick, hey, we need to try to, raise money from our parents. Through proper fiscal planning, our school is able to handle the maintenance of the buildings along with when things unexpected go wrong. We have reserve funds so that we can take care of our building. And it's a really important thing because, believe it or not all schools either do that or are able to do that. So there are times when things happen at some schools and it just can't get fixed. We are constantly planning for the future. So in addition to looking at what are the maintenance needs, we're always trying to plan for, well, what's going to be happening in 5 years? What's going to be happening in 10 years? What are some of the areas we think we're going to address? What are some of the plans that may address those? And last but not least is safety and security. We want our students deserve to be in a building that is clean, well maintained, and safe and secure. You can't learn if you don't feel safe and secure. So we put a lot of time and effort into looking at the actual safety of the facilities. Are the gates working the way we want them to work? Do the cameras work the way we want them to work? Are access points controlled and secure? So that's it's one of the safety of your children is one of our top priorities. If you were at Mass the other day, you heard Mrs. Ramirez mention about what doors we use at Mass. And because we want to always make sure whatever building our students in is safe and secure. So just know that when you send your kids here, you're sending your kids to a building that we take care of, we care about, and we do that because of how much we care about the children and how they deserve the best. So we try to give that to them. And I could talk about facilities for a long time. It's not as fun as our curriculum and extracurricular activities, but those have to happen in a building. So if there are any questions about facilities, please let us know and I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, so far no questions because you did such a fabulous job. So as I said before, if you think of questions, we'll send out an FAQ and, okay, one popped up. Has the idea of a professional armed guard been discussed? And do you mind if I answer that, Mr. Enigos?
I do not mind, Mrs. Ramirez.
Okay. We actually sent a survey out for the last 2 weeks, and that is one of the questions on the survey. So it's a good point. It's a good chance for me to remind you, if you haven't done the survey, please do it. I am reading every single one and taking to heart every single thing that is said. So please take the opportunity to complete the survey. But one of the questions on there is, what do you think about an armed guard? So yes, we have thought about it. There are definite pros and cons to it. Do you have anything to add to that, Anthony?
The only thing to add is that yes, it is being discussed, it is being considered, and to echo what Jennifer said, there's definitely pros, cons, and opinions and things to think about.
Okay, so another question is, have you thought about investing in a removable turf area for kids to play sports safely? Not sure what a removable turf area is, but you can probably talk about grass areas and the thought we put into that.
At this point, we have not investigated removable turf. In terms of sports, in terms of playing sports safely, our primary focus has been for sports that require turf, securing facilities where we can go and play them. Our actual basketball court area would be tough to hold football for, and then it wouldn't really work too well for track and field. So we tend to look for facilities where the kids can go do that. But that is definitely it's definitely an interesting thing to put on the list. So I would be very curious about removable turf, how easy it is to remove, how easy it is to store, and those things. But yeah, these are the type of things we definitely take into consideration and look at.
Yeah, I've never heard of removable turf, so thank you for the idea. We'll look into it. We've investigated grass. One of the things that came up on the survey was grass. We have really looked into grass. So just so you know, we're aware of that.
And then Mrs. Ramirez, one thing in case the parents may not know, this did come up in the last strategic plan session, the idea of expanding facilities to add a field. And one of the issues is, we are currently limited in our space. We looked at the idea of going with underground parking, but underground parking is phenomenally expensive, and it would not, I mean, I realistically, it wouldn't be a solution that our kids or grandkids probably got to see because of the cost and the time associated with it. Um, we did look at perhaps purchasing land around the area, but again, as I'm sure I'm not telling anybody new, prices in the Pasadena area are quite exorbitant. So adding land has not been something that at this point has been feasible, but we do continuously look into the options of how could we possibly expand the facilities.
Yes. And there's a question about an target classroom sizes. And so I'm going to go on and take that one. Archdiocesan policy is actually that classes can be up to 36 students per class. We've never adopted that policy here. Our class sizes here, we try to keep kindergarten at around 26 and first through third and fourth around 30. Sometimes fifth and sixth will go up to 32. So those are our target classroom sizes. And I know sometimes we want our kids in really small classes, but you have to understand we're a parish school. We're not charging 25,000 a year or even 18,000 a year. We're charging, parish school tuition. And that means we need to keep us a pretty robust enrollment. And so a good teacher and a good teacher's assistant with 30 students in the classroom is really a quality education. Dr. Amy, do you want to add something to that?
Sure, I think that's where we are so lucky in that we get our students have that benefit of not only their classroom teacher, but the teaching associate, as well as additional TAs and resource teachers. So I know our kinder first students or second, third grade students do have that option, have had the option for an additional TA to come. Miss Marcy, Miss Annabelle, we've had different folks kind of cycle through. And if the teachers can kind of coordinate, they can have up to about 3 or 4 adults that are staff in the classroom to support small group instruction. I know I've even jumped in a classroom here or there. And so we really do our best to have a low student to teacher or student to adult ratio. And if you've been in kindergarten, we have parent volunteers as well, first grade, TK even, because that is something that's really important to us, is making those meaningful learning experiences possible. In our junior high math program, we do have Mrs. Webster who does small group instruction. We have Mr. Moss, we have Mrs. Morales. So like I said, when we can't, I've even been in the math classrooms. When we can, we do everything we can to support a lower student to teacher ratio.
Okay. And then a parent just asked about walking to Grant Park. And Mr. Iniguez, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we kind of stopped that because of the safety issue at Grant Park.
The demographics of Grant Park changed over the course of the years, and we'd become increasingly concerned with when we walked our students there. It wasn't always the best environment. It wasn't that we necessarily felt that they were unsafe, but they were potentially exposed to things that weren't exactly what we wanted them to be around and seeing during the course of PE. So it was good while it was, but over the course of a few years, it definitely changed, and we were just dealing with things that we really didn't want our students to have to deal with.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both, Dr. Amy and Mr. Iniguez. You've been looking at our mission statement for a while here in front of you, and I hope you recognize it as something new because it is new. I did send this home, I don't know, maybe a month ago. I'm not exactly sure when, but it did go home. But I just kind of want to end the night with this because this is the reason for our existence. Our mission statement is why we are here. We are a Catholic parish community dedicated to educating, nurturing, and inspiring children to achieve their full potential as thoughtful and responsible followers of Jesus. So when we had our strategic plan committee last, I think it was October and November, we spent a lot of time coming up with our new mission statement. We are all really, really excited about it. We think it really reflects who we are and what we do so well. So I just want to always talk about it, always have it in front of us so we don't ever forget this is why we are here. And the final slide, Dr. Amy, is our strategic plan goals. Going forward, we are as progressive as we can be in always looking ahead, looking at what's coming next, not jumping on every bandwagon that comes along, but analyzing things, looking at what fits us, what's going to serve our students and our families the best. And strategic planning is part of that. So for the next 6 years, these are our new strategic planning goals. And providing opportunities and programs for students and families to engage and deepen their Catholic faith. And excuse me, I just noticed I spelled Catholic wrong there. So I'm sorry about that. I do know how to spell Catholic. The second one, we will develop and implement a plan to ensure long-term financial stability. Again, being stable, being able to replace the roof when we need to, being able to pay our teachers a really fair and good salary. By the way, our teachers and the stability with our teachers is, you will not find that anywhere at this point. We have the best teachers and they are staying here. They're dedicated. They're coming back year after year. And it is extremely meaningful that that is happening. We will attract and retain qualified teachers and staff with competitive compensation packages. We'll develop and implement a master site plan to maximize campus security, sustainability, and use of space. We will design and implement a marketing plan to increase student enrollment. Before COVID, our enrollment was at 562 students. We are now, right now, at 525. Our goal for next year is 535. You have to remember, we need the enrollment to sustain what we're doing. We don't want to cut any program. We don't want to start charging for drama. We want to provide everything we do, keep every program that we have. And so we have to I'm not looking to go back to 562, but the goal of 535 is a good goal and one that we're planning to hopefully reach next year. So that's it for the night. Thank you very much for joining us. If we didn't answer a question that you have, please reach out to Dr. Amy, Mr. Iniguez, or myself. We're all happy to answer any questions that may remain. And we just want you to know we appreciate you, and truly, truly, we love your children. So thank you very much and have a great evening. Bye.